Hey people, how are you all doing? This is Ed from Last Lap Lion, and welcome to my short review video of the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. So, at the front, really wasn't the most exciting race ever. Major understatement, I think. It might be too cheesy a joke to say that Formula One is maxed out at the moment with Max Verstappen's domination, I think. So, wonder how long I'll be able to get away with saying that every time he wins. Not for long, I don't think. So, yeah, it was so easy for Max. He just dominated. That was... it was good for fans of Max, boring for fans of everyone else and fans of the sport, but it's up to everyone else to catch up. So well done Max for a brilliant win, his first win in Bahrain, which is another milestone for him, and the first ever 1-2 for Red Bull. That's quite surprising, really, considering how much they've dominated in races and championships. That's their first ever 1-2 in a season opener, and only their second ever win in a season opener. So that's really quite surprising. Shows how they tend to, in the past at least, start seasons relatively slowly or modestly, and then turn up the heat, build up the pressure in the following races after the season opener, basically. But considering that they've started so well and so dominantly, it's not a good sign for the prospects of an exciting or close season. So I'm hoping that it closes up more from now onwards, that Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston Martin can close the gap, because certainly, as impressive as it was by Red Bull, this performance, not a great omen for a classic season of F1, but we'll see. This was fairly forgettable race from the point of view of racing for the lead, but we'll see how the next few races pan out. So that was all good, all well worth observing. Charles Leclerc and Ferrari, biggest disappointment of the race, I'd say. They were really so promising, I thought, during testing and during qualifying. It was not really a representative race in terms of Charles and Ferrari showing what they're capable of at all. They really underperformed a great deal. I don't think Charles did. I think Charles did a great job with what he had, but the Ferrari car is not performing to its optimum potential at all yet, I don't think. I think there's a lot to come from that car yet, which hasn't been unlocked under race conditions. So, and that was kind of confirmed by Carlos Sainz not having a great weekend either. I don't think it was him underperforming, really. I think it was just that that car has not been optimized at all yet. So, really, I was hoping that Charles might be able to challenge Max and pressurize him as the race went on, bearing in mind he was only 3/10 slower, basically, in qualifying, and in the ultimate qualifying laps, and had fresher tyres, which could have given him, theoretically at least, an advantage of maybe 4 or 5 tenths per lap. So I was hoping, when he got into second place, I was hoping that could be the start of something exciting for the race, but this particular race didn't happen. But I'm hoping that they're gonna start unlocking the potential of that car, and that it's gonna improve and not be like last season. I think their performance, although it wasn't great, was actually more solid than last season. I think there was no sign so much of the mistakes, the strategic mistakes, and the general lack of organisation in the team that blighted so much of their season last year didn't seem to be so evident. It seemed to be more, generally a bit more organised. So I thought that was a positive sign, and I think that maybe Fred Vasseur, as boss, is hopefully starting to make his presence felt, to improve things a little bit already in that team. So I think that's generally their performance. Ferrari, not great so far, but I'm hoping that there's a lot of untapped potential there, which hopefully is going to be unlocked in the next few races. Esteban Ocon, I've got to say, that was a really comedic race from him. Not a great start for his first race in Alpine, with Pierre Gasly as his teammate, and the massively well-documented lack of friendship between those two, supposedly. So he didn't have a great race at all, and I think that he seemed to be on a mission to try and find out how many different penalties and how many penalties a driver can pick up in a single race. You seem to be on a mission to try and rewrite the record book there, because I've never known, I don't think there's any history of a driver picking up a 5-second penalty, then having it increased to a 10-second penalty because they didn't serve it properly, and then a 15-second penalty. That is, as far as I know, it's unprecedented since these types of penalties have been brought in. So that is... And he got done for speeding in the pit lane as well. So that is... shouldn't laugh because it's not. It's a shame for him, but it's such a disastrous race of epic proportions, basically, for Esteban Ocon. Hopefully he can get his eye in and start improving more. Pierre Gasly did a great job, I think, coming back to get back into the top 10 after the disastrous start he had to his race. And I think it's comprehensively 1-0 to Pierre in that battle between those two teammates to start the season. So Alpine, the Pink Panthers, as they are at the moment, really having a pretty disastrous race. And especially Esteban Ocon, and hopefully they'll improve as well as the season goes on. Mercedes really making the best out of a bad job, I think. Especially Lewis Hamilton. George Russell struggled a little bit more, but I think Lewis did the best he possibly could have done. Salvaging a P5, I think, was really good for him. And putting pressure on Carlos Sainz a little bit towards the end. Typical Lewis, not giving up. So he did the best he possibly could have done, really, I think. Mercedes, interesting to see the statement from Toto Wolff going into the race. Really saying that they'd effectively given up seemingly with this concept of car. I think it's clearly they did see a lot of potential in it, otherwise they wouldn't have persevered with it for so long. Unusual to see a team saying that about their car, but I like their honesty, and hopefully they can still make the best out of a bad job with this car for this season, or at least part of the season. Maybe they might try and bring out a B-spec car to the extent that the rules allow. It won't be like McLaren in 2004, where they bring out a B-spec car halfway through the season and it transforms a performance, I don't think, after an initially disastrous car. But hopefully they can work to improve the performance of it. And I think that they hopefully can still salvage half-decent season with some good results. But they struggled today, predictably, I guess. Fernando Alonso is my driver of the race in many ways. I think it was so great to see Fernando being such a different driver in and out of the cockpit. It's so clear that he's enjoying so much so far, being with Aston Martin, being in this team, being in this car. It's just amazing to see the change in Fernando. I have been so used to, as all F1 fans who have been watching F1 for more than 10 years, will be used to Fernando constantly in mental pain, going through mental pain during races and complaining like nothing on earth about the car that he's having to drive, about his team, about his teammates, various things which have in fairness have been pretty bad for him. So Fernando has just been going through so much pain, and the change in him in this race I thought was just amazing. It was so great to see Fernando happy. You know, a happy Fernando Alonso is so unusual. I think not because he's not a happy person, but because he's so driven and so focused and so passionate. And that's Fernando. That's why so many of us love him, I think, is because he leaves nothing to the imagination. He just goes for it. And it was awesome to see him so happy, praising the team, praising the car, praising Lance Stroll's performance, which certainly that was super impressive from Lance Stroll. It really was, to get himself into the car for this weekend with the injuries that he's had and not just drive the whole race and the whole weekend, but score points as well, was massively impressive. So that praise from Fernando was certainly justified. But Fernando is just such a transformed driver this year, and I cannot wait to see how, I'm really hoping that Aston Martin can improve the car even more and Fernando can challenge for wins, because that would be amazing. It would be amazing for F1, it would be amazing for Fernando after so many years in the wilderness. It would be a truly feel-good story. So hopefully this is the start of P3 today for Fernando is the start of many more great things for him. Okay, so that is the end of my fairly short review of the Bahrain Grand Prix in 2023. If you agree with what I've said here, then, or if you've got your own opinions on the race, then feel free to get a discussion going in the comments, like and subscribe. So, see you at the next one.